Hello everybody who's just joining, so I'm going to do a stream, only for about an hour again as usual, because that's about as long as I can do it before my voice starts going, sort of a bit. Not going to be playing anything today, as I think I've said before, because where the weather's been really hot, I don't like particularly playing games on the PC too much, because obviously that heats the room up even more. Hopefully as well, you haven't got, you can't hear the fan I've got going in the corner of the room because I've got all the windows open. I'm trying to make a wind tunnel through the room using the fan to keep it cool, because I've got up and it's already 28 degrees, so you know that's not great, but it's not really getting any colder than that in the house at the moment. So it'll just be chatting about whatever on this stream really. I don't have any particular plans for it. Cool. Yeah, sometimes you actually hear the computer fan anyway on the mic anyway. I can try turning it a little bit. I don't know if that's going to improve it or make it worse, but it's just really getting it so it still picks up my voice, but hopefully doesn't pick up a lot of the fan. I mean, I might be able to turn it down slightly if it ends up being annoying, but I can't really have it off at the moment, and I've not got the fan aimed at the mic. It's just to try and, because how my room's shaped and unfortunately how the house is laid out. I don't have an outside window on my room. I have a window that opens up onto a conservatory that gets bloody hot during the summer. So what I've had to do is open my door, open a window, then open the windows in the conservatory to try and then make a wind tunnel. But the annoying thing is my room is really bad at ventilation. I can't just open a window and cool it down. I'm in England. It's 28 degrees inside at the moment. It's probably a bit cooler outside, but the house has got a good insulation, which is nice in the winter and awful during the summer, because most houses in England are not designed for hot summers. It's a reason nobody has aircon here, really. They're basically, you know, we don't expect to get hot summers, and then now and again we do. And then when you do, you know, it's not great. But I did have one of the rooms in the house get to about 36 degrees centigrade yesterday, which was not pleasant at all, just due to the heat getting trapped inside. I mean, I don't know if I could put an SHMS on it and if it would make a weird noise. I mean, I'm not going to do that during this stream because it would take a while to set up, but oh, county. I'm in Oxfordshire. Yeah, it'll be a totally different time depending on where you are. It's 11:45 at the moment in the UK. But yeah, I'm just doing a stream in the morning because a lot of the time when I do streams in the morning, they stay on topic a bit more, I've noticed, or like the afternoon. Normally in the evening is when I keep getting people saying, "What's your favourite gas mask? What's your favourite gas mask? Do you play airsoft?" For, you know, like nearly all the stream. Whereas when I do them in the morning, it tends to not be as bad. What makes the UK time zone worse is that we have the summertime, where they change the actual, what they do basically in the UK is during the summer they move the clocks backwards so it seems like it's lighter for longer, and they shouldn't really do that in my opinion. But the thing that's really annoying about the time zone thing is basically that further confuses things. So if you're looking like how many hours a different country is in front or behind of the UK, that's always set to Greenwich Mean Time 0, which is like winter UK time. So when it's summer UK time, that's not actually accurate anymore. Well, I think the Ospreys are just there as like an escort because they'd have had all the Secret Service on those, because obviously Trump had a big bodyguard team with him. But I think a lot of it as well is just, you know, if like a jet or a plane or a helicopter tried to ram into whatever the presidential helicopter's called, Marine One I think it is, I think the idea is that, you know, you could probably intercept it with another helicopter. Because yeah, when they went over, there was at least one Osprey, there was the two Black Hawks. Obviously one of the Black Hawks would be Marine One, which is the presidential chopper, and then I think you could see like about a few hundred yards, maybe a mile away on each side, they had another two helicopters, and I think they were just like local police ones, which are kind of like, you know, the police escort, but obviously they don't get too close to the presidential one. Alright, thank you, the Chinese thing, that's nice, I guess. I don't know. I think the thing is with America, I think something like 40% of my views come from America, and I can understand why, because you know I'm very pro Second Amendment and everything like that. But I think with America, that is probably where you get a lot of the people who don't really bother listening to some of the things I say and keep repeating it, and that's not really anything against America. I think it's just because a massive amount of my viewers come from there. But yeah, the funny thing was with I've completely forgotten what I was going to say now. It's something to do with America, I think, and some of the messages I get from America. When you say MP4, do you mean the Polish MP4 or M10? Well, like the two cheek filter masks. If I could pick any of them, M10M. Actually, no, the MP4B with the drinking tube, but the M10 in some ways feels a nicer quality mask, but for some reason I do like the MP4s more. I don't particularly know why, but the MP4B has a really good drinking tube system. It's that question again. It's because the GSR looks cool even if it's a crap mask, so for a cover picture it's not too bad because people will go like, wow, that looks cool. And I think when I made the image I didn't hate it so much, it's just every time I put the GSR on I find more faults with it. Although I did find if you wear the GSR wrong it actually is more comfortable, which makes no sense whatsoever, but it's you know, one of those silly things. So with the GSR, if I put my chin past the chin stop for the mask, it actually gets more comfortable and still makes an airtight seal. So there's always that. I do not know why that's the case, but no, not all S10 bags are DPM. Some of them are just plain colours. When Avon makes them, they just made them in the plain colours, and then I think they later had them printed with DPM. So I think a lot of the ones from Army contracts had the DPM bags, but a lot of them are just like grey or green bags. For example, my FM12 just has a black bag, but it's the exact same kind of bag. Very rarely use Reddit. I sometimes go on the gas mask subreddit, but quite often on there it's people just constantly talking about GP5s, which, as you probably know if you're into gas masks at all, gets boring very quickly. I think there's some other subreddits I've looked at before. I sometimes go on the YouTube subreddit, but sometimes, you know, again, the YouTube subreddit's kind of people who don't really understand a lot of what they're talking about on there, so it just becomes very boring very fast, because it's lots of people who try and answer a question but don't really know the answer, so you don't get any good information on it. No, I've never been ripped off with a gas mask, because I generally, you know, only buy the mass-produced stuff. So the closest I've been to being ripped off was buying what was described as a brand new, you know, made in the last couple of years, for Shida. And then when I got it, it was from the 90s, and then when I complained to the seller, they offered me a full refund if I sent it back, or a partial refund, so I just took a partial refund because I wanted to keep the mask. K98K over Moss and Nagant, but then I'd pick a Lee Enfield over two of those, the SMLE. SHMS is obviously better than the GP5 because it has a voice diaphragm on and you can look down scopes with it. Thanks for translating, but yeah, bit strange that if somebody can kind of hear in English that they don't reply in English, I guess, but whatever. As long as it stays civil, I don't mind. Yeah, you need to inhale quite a lot of charcoal to cause proper lung damage, but I just advise not to use it anymore. Like with all these things, if you know it's leaking, don't use it. That's kind of why I was saying with M1 filters, is they're so old now that even if they were technically safe and didn't contain asbestos, there's no reason trying to use it because it's probably expired. Alright, cheers, glad you enjoyed the videos. I'm still churning out a video a day somehow. I need to film a video a bit later today for later next week, because I'm normally always a week ahead. MG42. I mean, I'd rather have an MG3 to an MG42 because that's actually in 7.62 NATO, so it's a modern, you know, caliber. But dinner plate 28, I don't really like that design because it reminds me a bit of some of the old Lewis guns, which are a bit strange looking. Although a Bren gun, I do like the Bren gun. PMG one, simply because it works where the PMK is. I'm sure you know my opinion on the PMK in GP7. Bar or Lewis? Lewis gun. I know that Lewis is a heavy gun, and it depends actually which model of bar, because the later model bars are a lot better, so probably a late model bar I'd say, but I'd rather have a Bren gun than a bar. Craftwork, funnily enough you mentioned music, because I actually don't mind Craftwork themselves, but generally I kind of listen to anything if it sounds good, but I like a lot of sort of industrial and prog rock kind of stuff, and soundtrack kind of stuff. Worst gas mask, that depends, like worse from a quality control aspect or just crap by design. Because like with the GSR, that was awful in quality control but wasn't awful in its actual design, it's just, you know, they made them as cheap as possible. The mask I have which I kind of think's the worst, and I know I've got a load of Hungarian viewers, so I'm not saying it to be offensive to Hungarians, I just don't think it's a very good mask, is the SM, not SM, that's the Swiss ones, the M76, whatever it's called. That kind of World War II German-style cloth mask that they gave to all the civilians, and they made in massive numbers. It's a cool-looking mask, but the issue is it's not very good at making an airtight seal because of the materials it's made from. When you say a protective vest, you mean like body armour? Like Kevlar or like the stab-proof vest? As long as you wear it under your coat, nobody's going to know you've got it on you, and you'll be perfectly fine. But if you want to spend more money, you can get the very slimline ones, or the ones that are disguised as regular clothing, which would actually be better, but I wouldn't really want to spend hundreds of pounds on something that I would only use now and again. Nah, I never really listened to 9 Inch Nails. I'm not saying they're bad, I've just not really listened to them. Yeah, the M17 isn't a bad mask, it's just, it's got the same flaw every cheek filter mask has, but when I got the M17A2, I was very surprised, you know, with the M17A2, how comfortable it was and everything else. It still has all the cheek filter problems, but the M17s themselves don't really have quality control problems other than the A1. You know. Well, P40 and B29 are not even the same class of plane. The P40 is like a fighter, isn't it? And the B29 is a massive bomber. But B29. Well, there's several ways you can cook. I've got a load of butane cans in the shed. You know, like the ones like the camping stove kind of butanes. But you can also obviously get wood and make a fire that way and just put a pot and fill it with water over thing. I've got a lot of packets of rice. You know, and rice is great because you can just boil it. Yeah, I've already said what I think about the Scott GSR quite a few times in this stream and several other times. It's one of those masks that looks good in design, but it was made to such low quality control level that is almost utter crap. No, I've been shot out with BB guns and things like that, but I've not actually been shot with a gun. I've had knives pulled on me before, because like I said, I used to work in a shithole. There was one time when I was quite young and I was in a field, and there was a farmer shooting a shotgun, and I don't think he knew we were there, and that came a bit close to hitting us, but I've never been on purposely shot at. No, stop asking about MRE videos. The US doctrine was that you died if your filter expired. Basically, I think they told the soldiers, oh, the filter will last long enough for you to either get out of there or get your mission done, but they didn't actually, you know, tell them how long the filters lasted. So yeah, the M17 was not a good mask to have if you were cut off and then gas was used. AK-47 obviously over the Xiao Xiao. I'll have a look at the Draeger Model 109 because I'm not familiar with that. I'll have a look at. I know the Z56. It's like the white mask, isn't it? I can't actually find anything for the Draeger 109 when I Google it. Are you taking a piss now, Ethan? Because you keep asking about MREs despite the fact that I've said I'm not doing videos on MREs. Used to work in a warehouse, get asked that every stream as well. Oh yeah, of course I knew it adsorbs gas, that's why I always say it adsorbs, not absorbs in my videos. I've got an entrenching tool. Well, I've got the cold steel shovel, which is basically an entrenching tool that you could also cut people apart with. Yeah, as long as you can feed the dog. Dogs obviously protect you. They can smell things from really far away, so obviously you get advanced warning about a lot of things. Alright, cool. I'll check that out later. I won't know. Well, Ethan, you've been blocked now, because as I told you, stop asking the same bloody question over and over. I've already answered, so enjoy your block. I fell over and broke my arm at one point and had a compound fracture with 2 bones. I was at the ulnar and radius coming out. Was pretty mangled from that, but obviously I was able to get surgery the same day, and then within a couple of weeks of having my arm in a cast, that was all back to normal, thankfully. My left wrist is probably weaker than my right wrist, though, still due to that. But that was years and years ago. Well, I use a workplace respirator for use against particulates, but that's about it. So they're not technically chemicals, but you know, like dust spores, things like that, hay spores, airborne shit actually as well is one of the uses I use it for. The stupid thing about that compound fracture is I was at primary school when it happened, and the teachers were like, oh, do we actually need to send him home, despite the fact my bone was poking out my fucking skin. So obviously as soon as my mum came to pick me up, she rushed me to hospital, and then that's when they actually started, you know, giving me loads of painkillers and everything else. That, like I said, that's years and years ago. When I was at primary school, I was probably only about 7 or something when that happened. But yeah, it was tripping and landing on my arm really funnily. Shame I was probably too young then to be given morphine, because that would have been nice. No, sorry, I just got a notification on my phone I was checking. There's still A&Es. I went to A&E only like a month or 2 ago. A&E still exists. I've already blocked him, mate, because he was obviously doing it to wind me up, because I've said I'm not doing MRE videos on this channel, and then he would keep asking it over and over again, so he was being a dick. So, don't help him at all. Yeah, as I was saying earlier, I volunteer and I use my mask for that, because there's risks of inhaling lots of particulates. I very rarely watch Thunderfoot, but like I said, that video had so much misinformation in where he was misinformed and was using his own political opinions to try and change science around it, like we should ban guns because nerve agent isn't deadly, which is a really stupid argument, so I don't think he's a very smart guy, to be honest. He might be smart in certain fields, but you shouldn't apply it to things he knows nothing about, Dunning-Kruger effect and all. Well, it doesn't bother me when they ask me the first time, and then if I say no, I'm not doing them, they're like, oh, okay, fine. The issue is it's when people want you to do a certain video and they won't shut up about it, because that's when they get blocked. It's like, at the moment, there's lots of people who keep saying, oh, you haven't done another gas mask video in a while, even though there was one like the other day, and then people were asking on that when I was next doing a gas mask video, because apparently that wasn't a good enough gas mask video for what they wanted, because I've been doing a couple of different things recently. And then you get people that keep, like, every day saying, so when's the next gas mask video? And even if you tell them, they keep spamming it, and now I've been blocking those people because they just piss me off. You know, I doubt they've watched my entire backlog of gas mask videos. If they wanted to watch some gas mask videos, they should watch those and then come back. I'd rather use a poleaxe, to be honest, but I don't have one yet because the poleaxe is a lot shorter. The problem with the halberd is it's so long, because it's like 8 foot long. So it's bloody annoying to try and manoeuvre it through a building. I did a video exactly on that, Mr. Stapler. The short thing is, if you don't want to watch the video, was that because they're a lot cheaper than other militaria and they look cool. Yeah, it's just gone 11 AM. No, Britain can't make a space force because Britain's only had like 1 or 2 astronauts, so Britain is not going to make a space force, and Britain's completely falling apart. But after seeing some of the Trump protesters the other day, it's no wonder Trump wants to make space marines. All the like chaos cultists it looked like in the anti-Trump protests. As I've already said several times in this stream, Moldy Toes, that's the Scott GSR. It's not a good thing. Well, a reason I don't really talk about politics and religion, and it's very divisive, and you can have lots of people that enjoy your content, but as soon as you start talking about politics or religion, you piss a lot of people off, and I don't like people trying to derail it, saying like, oh, what do you think of this political party? I will sometimes bring it up when I feel quite strongly about something, but for the most part I try and ignore it. What's the weather like on the Isle of Scilly? I imagine it's a bit nicer than it is here, to be honest. Yeah, Poland's only 2 hours in front of the UK, but it's obviously an hour in front at the moment because we're on summertime, not proper time. I don't hate ghillie suits. The point is with ghillie suits is, like, because I could make my own, I'd enjoy making my own a lot more, I'd rather just do that. If you want to buy a cheap one, it would certainly be better than nothing. It's just you need to get something that actually looks like your local area. Well, Peach, that depends, doesn't it, on the knife laws changing. Like I say, and the one I really like is the one I bought off Weapon Collector recently, which is this little Tangram Japanese knife. This is really nice because although it's a type of steel, it's not a carbon, it's a stainless steel, but it's a really nice stainless steel and it's really easy to keep sharp. You know, this thing is like razor sharp. I've cut myself by accident on it a few times, but it's a very nice knife. But because it's so easy to keep in your pocket, I need to be very careful not to leave it in there if I go out and then, boy, do you have a license for that. I think in a lot of countries now, don't people get taught, let's say I'm doing bad grammar now, don't people get taught, but in lots of countries now, isn't English basically taught at school from a very young age, which is obviously quite a good thing for people wanting to learn English. The thing that annoyed me with foreign language stuff in the UK was basically, I think you're like 11 or 12 before they actually even start introducing you to foreign languages, which is the really irritating thing, because I think that at that stage you're kind of too old to pick them up well. If they started at primary school, it would be alright. Because at school we did German and French when like we were 12 or whatever, when we first started secondary school. And at that age I was too old to really pick it up. Like, I really couldn't understand French because everything's backwards in French. Like, the grammar structure is really different. German's a lot easier because German is very similar to English in terms of how you structure sentences. And a lot of the German words are just kind of like slightly misspelt English words. Well, I don't mean misspelt because obviously it's its own language, but you know what I mean by that. Where, like with German, there's lots of words where you can tell almost, especially if it's not somebody speaking it and you're reading it, what the words are, because you can like, oh, that's very similar to an English word, that's very similar to an English word. Well, they all actually came from Latin, Mr. Stapler. Pretty much every European language came from Latin, but yes, because of the Angles and the Saxons, obviously English is closer to German. So that's why it's easier to learn, because it's kind of like you can say, oh, this word's similar to that, this word's similar to that. Oh, did I miss somebody asking why it's audio only? Yeah, because it's audio only, silent voice, because with these streams less people get distracted saying, oh, what's that on the wall behind you? Can you get the gun down? Can you get the gun down? So I get less of that when I do audio only streams, and I can read the chat more, rather than keep looking at the webcam then the chat, webcam then the chat. I mean, I'm quite happy at the moment because it looks like Britain's going to be stuck in the EU because all the politicians here basically betrayed the Brexit vote. I am quite looking forward to Poland and Italy and everybody else causing the destruction of the EU from the inside, because they're not very happy with Angela Merkel. So that's one of the very good things that Poland, Hungary, the Czech Republic, Slovakia, Austria and Italy are all doing now. Alright, see you if you're going off. I very much doubt the MOD would want me to do advisory work, because it wouldn't. If I was to go there, it'd be right. I'm an advisor for the MOD. What you need to do is pull all your troops out of the desert. All the troops need to be in the UK. We're going to use the troops for civil defence problems in the UK, and if a civil war starts, then you need to turn against the government. So yeah, they would not want me as an advisor, would they? Right, I'm going to try and remember all the countries, so if I say them in a weird order. Scotland, Wales, obviously, as well as England. I haven't been to Ireland, as far as I remember. I've been to a few of, like, the Isle of Man and things like that. Some of the Isles off of England. France, Spain, Portugal, Germany, Austria, Norway, Finland, Poland, the Czech Republic, Slovakia, Hungary, Greece. I'm trying to think if I've been to any more. I can't remember. I don't know if I've very briefly been over the border to Italy. There's probably a couple more than that, but I've been to a lot of Western Europe, at least, and Central Europe. No, because I've not been to any of the Balkans countries. I said I can't remember if I've actually been to Italy, because if I went it would have been for a very short time. Yeah, bacteria is a particulate threat, so a P3 filter blocks that. I went to a few places in Poland. I obviously went to Warsaw, Krakow, I think it was Poznan and a couple of the other little places. Obviously Gdansk, that was quite good. That was really nice, Gdansk. The thing I really liked there was I went to that massive castle, you know, like the old Templar castle, or whatever it was, that's on the river. like Europe's biggest castle, the big red brick castle. Against bacteria, it depends on what kind of bacteria it is. For regular bacteria, no, but for stuff like anthrax, yes. Oh, thank you very much, Waldo. But for Mr. Jenkins Swift, well, obviously my GSR is still technically in service until they replace them with Avon M50s, which is like what I assume they're going to do. Then I might be able to get an Avon M50 for cheap. I've got the FM12 and CT12, and a lot of militaries still use those. The S10 is still used by several militaries. The Polish MP5 I've got hasn't been totally replaced in Polish service yet, because Poland still uses the MP5, even though the MP6 is replacing it. So yeah, I've got quite a few masks that are still in service. No, I don't have an old portable World War II crank radio. Well, a communist winter would win, but also who would win? The Red Army in 39 or 1940 or whenever it was, or one Finnish sniper. Yeah, there's loads of bioweapons. Pretty much every disease has been turned into a bioweapon that's just sitting in stockpiles. Yeah, I went to Auschwitz when I was there. Not in, obviously, Warsaw. I went to the Warsaw Uprising Museum. But obviously when I was near Krakow, I went to Auschwitz. But I'd have much rather had that without a tour guide. Because when you're there with a tour guide, they're literally saying the stuff like, oh, and this is where they turned the Jews into soap. You're like, could you please talk about the stuff that really happened, not the stuff that's now been proven to have been false? But, you know, so I'd much rather actually just walked around Auschwitz and looked at everything. And there was lots of guilt tripping, weirdly enough, when I was in Auschwitz. It was, you know, like, oh, if you don't like the idea of Europe being flooded with refugees, you want a second Holocaust. Really? Maybe I just don't want Europe being flooded with refugees. So yeah, I'd have much rather, you know, just have been able to walk around Auschwitz and kind of look at everything. Like, for all the people who want, like, this is going to be very controversial, but all the people want to know, I definitely believe the Holocaust happened, but I do believe there's lots of propaganda surrounding it, especially, you know, where they're trying to guilt trip you constantly, saying you need to kind of support Israel to do this because the Holocaust. Okay, right. You see, when I go to historical events, I want to actually look at them from an historical event, not like, oh, this is what we should do now because of this historical event. But I don't really want to talk more about Auschwitz. I sometimes swear in my videos. It depends if something annoys me enough to make me swear. I'm sure there's weaponized smallpox. I think it depends which bit of Auschwitz, because there's Auschwitz 1 and 2 when I was there. You know, like, Auschwitz 1 is kind of like the old barracks block, where they had, like, the wall where they shot all the poles against the wall, stuff like that, and then Auschwitz 2 is where they had all the gas chambers which got blown up, and Auschwitz 3, I think, is completely destroyed. But I'm pretty sure in Auschwitz 1 you could go around without a tour guide, because we did see random people just walking around on their own, who obviously didn't work there. But yeah, in Auschwitz 2 we weren't even able to see all of Auschwitz 2, because apparently they were filming something of a Holocaust survivor and then said, oh, you can't go over there because they're filming a thing. I'd love to visit the US, it's just saving up to do it, but I'm sure I say this in every stream, I'd love to go to America, because, you know, yeah, as I say, it's pretty obvious why I'd want to go to America. No, I don't do sports anymore. I mean, like, other than doing archery and stuff like that in my garden, no. There's nothing really near me, though, that would actually be a sport I'd want to do. Like, the closest you could say to me playing a sport is airsoft, but I very rarely do that, because it's a pain in the arse trying to arrange to go down with people. That's why I've never got the UCARA sorted out, even though I think I only need to do one more game, technically, to get the UCARA. Because every time I've been trying to arrange with somebody to go, then they're always like ill or not feeling up to it nearer the time. It's like, for fuck's sake. Do you mean, which kind of pancakes? Did you get conventional pancakes, Scotch pancakes, potato waffles, and breakfast waffles? But I'd probably say breakfast waffles. Although I tell you what, I do bloody love, if you get a McDonald's breakfast, the pancakes with the sausage meat and the butter and the maple syrup. Damn, I want one of those now. Alright, see ya, if you're off. No licenses for crossbows in the UK or bows. You can get whatever you want. I doubt I'd want a big SLR for airsoft, especially because having a bigger gun's not going to really give you any advantage when sights have FPS limits. So, what I'd probably do is, if I ever got a thing, just get like an AK-74 or, you know, an M16 kind of looking thing, just a mod. Well, as I've got the M4, I wouldn't get an M16. Obviously, if I got UCAR, I'd sort out realistic furniture for the M4. Then probably get a nice, wood furnished AK-74 or one of the modern plastic looking ones. Yeah, I'll tell you what, maple syrup is really nice on sausage, especially sausage meat. I prefer sausage meat to actually sausage, where you cut the sausage meat really thin and make it quite crispy. But yeah, McDonald's do the thing where you get like 2 or 3 pancakes and a chunk of sausage meat in the breakfast menu. I've got the Cymer M4, which is alright. The only thing I don't like is the motor on it, because I think I've complained about that before. I had to tape the contacts on, because otherwise they'd randomly just disconnect and the gun would stop working. S6 is a much better mouse than the GP5. Alright, how long have I been streaming for then? Just to give me an idea, because my throat's already going a bit dry, 37 minutes, so I've got to manage about 20 more minutes. Let's drink some water. Yeah, that's the same as in the UK, but the problem is, even if you don't need an airsoft thing for the UK, not an airsoft thing, sorry, I'm getting distracted now, you know, like a gun license for buying muzzle loaders and everything else. The issue is lots of places selling them won't sell you one unless you have a gun license to kind of protect themselves. Right, I reckon Burger King does much better burgers than McDonald's. I really like KFC, but obviously it's limited to chicken at KFC. Very rarely go to Subway. Even though McDonald's is kind of not as good as Burger King because it's a lot cheaper, I generally like McDonald's. What I normally do at McDonald's is get a, if the breakfast menu isn't on, I get, normally I buy 2 double cheeseburgers, because double cheeseburgers are only £1.50 each in the UK. So for £3 you can get nearly 1,000 calories worth of burger. Then I normally buy a large toffee latte, so you get the, you know, like latte with the toffee in the toffee ice cream sauce and all the whipped cream on it. So that's like a 1,500 odd calorie meal if I do that. And of course McDonald's beef is full of all the growth hormones, so because they inject all those into the cows to get them ready for slaughter and to get more meat on them earlier, it means you're actually taking anabolic steroids when you eat the burgers. So look at that. That's either very bad if you look at it, or it's very good if you're exercising, because you're technically getting illegal anabolic steroids directly into your meat. So just a fact for anybody who's interested in weightlifting or anything else. If you're eating lots of McDonald's food, you're actually going to get lots of anabolic steroids in your system anyway. Yeah, I'm hungry right now. I have to get some food fairly soon. I haven't really had breakfast yet. I just made myself a really strong coffee this morning. I went to McDonald's last week and I hadn't been for like a year because of that. Because when I used to work in the city, I used to go in, and normally every day before work I'd just get a load of burgers just because of how exhausting the work was. So you know, you'd basically fill yourself up on that, and then I'd be on my feet for like, you know, hours non-stop after that. Because I used to do about 10 miles a day on an 8-hour shift of walking, carrying weight. So, you know, I used to eat a lot of McDonald's food before that, and you wouldn't get fat because you're burning all those calories off. So it was actually really good for like fitness reasons. As much as people are like, oh no, you can't eat those burgers, they're really bad for you. As long as you're actually exercising, they're not really bad. Yeah, but the thing is, Mr. Jenkins Swift, it's not a UK law that, it's that basically lots of companies want to cover themselves, so they think if you've got a firearms licence, you're less likely to do something stupid with it. The stream started about 40 minutes ago. You can actually hover over the start of the stream and it will tell you when I started it. In the UK, it's 11:20 now. No, I haven't served in the army because I'm medically unfit to serve. Mostly because of asthma, but because I'm Asperger's as well, even though I'm high-functioning autism, I'm sure you're not allowed in for that reason. Also because I have ulcerative colitis, they probably wouldn't allow me in for that reason. So yeah, I'm sure if there was a big war on and they were desperate for cannon fodder, you know, I'd be fine for conscription because of that, but I've got lots of minor things wrong with me that would all cancel me off of being able to serve. Even though I'm perfectly fit to go around walking with heavy backpacks on and everything else. Which is kind of the funny thing, is if I'm ever doing anything that requires lots of physical activity, I'm generally fine, and my asthma's not generally set off by physical activity. Generally it's like if I inhale too much dust, my asthma gets set off. Weirdly enough, if I applied for a gun licence, they wouldn't ban me, one, because of autism, although I'm sure they'd ban me for my political reasons, not being allowed a gun. UK is far more likely to have a civil war than a foreign war at this point, other than when we invade Middle Eastern countries for no reason. Well, if they lifted all the gun laws and you could buy whatever, the first thing I'd probably buy is a pistol for self-defense. So I'd either buy a compact revolver or something like a SIG P226, but it depends on what's available and what the prices are. But obviously, a nice little compact revolver would be lovely. Yeah, there's lots of really weird things like that, but the thing is with the UK military as well is because they cut so many jobs from it, their entry requirements are like absurd now, because there's actually, you know, things where if you compare what the entry requirements are for the US Army compared to the UK one, it's like, no, there's so much lower for the US Army. And the funny thing is, I think a lot of the people, if they actually got them into military service and they were disciplined enough, they'd actually, you know, be really good as soldiers. But, you know, the problem is that if you simply say, no, 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 you can't join because we basically want you to be an athlete level fitness before you even join, so we don't have to train you as much, which I think is their kind of mentality now. You know, that's the problem. Alright, cheers, Young Thunder Armory. Yeah, but Elliot Rodgers was in the US, he wasn't in the UK. And the whole Elliot Rodgers thing, the thing was with him, I think if his parents had actually cared for him properly as a child, he probably wouldn't have turned into like this psychotic incel killer. But the thing was, his parents were basically like the parents that completely ignored him and just threw loads of money at him, and of course it turned him into some cynical weirdo with no social abilities and then decided to go kill a load of people. Oh, I think the UK is very likely to have a civil war. I think every week we get closer to it with the politicians being so out of touch with reality and just not caring, having an entire fifth column in the UK. It's not going to be long before something just kicks off. If you look at some of the protests that go on, the more and more sort of, you know, violent they're getting, and the more and more the police are kind of, you know, abusing their power to clamp down on it. I have no idea who Mumkey Jones is. Well, it depends. I'm not going to say where you can illegally get guns, but I think in the event of a civil war there'd be lots of interested foreign parties that would just start swarming the country of guns, like which happens in any civil war in any country. But yeah, there's always a black market for it, and like I said, I'm not going to go into detail of that because it'd be illegal to talk about it because I'm in the UK, but these things are about. Prohibitions never work on anything. And lots of people do own shotguns and like 22 long rifle and stuff like that, so I think in the event of a civil war there would be lots of firearms doing that. And you'd hope in a UK civil war as well, lots of the army, because they are recruited from like working class males, would probably be anti-government, especially if they are ordered to shoot on their own people. I think it would generally be lots of religious kind of lines in the UK Civil War, as well as the police being ordered to do lots of very nasty things, and then you'd hope most of the police would kind of defect. I kind of like milk, like full fat milk, as a soft drink, just because you can make that into coffee or whatever else, and obviously lots of protein and everything else in milk, and healthy fats. But in terms of alcohol, I quite like bitter, like strongish ale. I mean, there's quite a lot of spirits I like as well, but... Oh, what, like Life of Boris? Yeah, I think Life of Boris commented on it. Weed itself is not legal, it's a Class B drug. However, CBD oil, cannabis oil, is legal. And they're on about now making more THC kind of medical marijuana legal, because I think they've realised the prohibition on it really doesn't work. But again, like all drugs, very cheap to a degree to buy if you know somebody selling it. Like obviously it's the most common drug on the black market, weed. I like Adnam's ghost ship. I've got a load of that in the back fridge at the moment. What did a very young squid say? Alright, yeah, no, yeah, like I said, it's not illegal, but you can easily get it for not loads of money on the black market, because black markets exist, as I was saying. Yeah, that's probably not something you want to boast about, Mr. Stapler, saying, oh, I've broken the law, let me talk about it online. No, I've got Clausewitz's On War and Machiavelli's The Prince, but I haven't read the Sun Tzu book. Sadly, I've not really seen many old swords for auction. I mean, 'cause I'd probably have to go for an actual auction house for that, because most online sites don't sell them. I've got some old bayonets, but no, the swords I've got are like handmade reproduction swords. Well, I'm not trained to ride a horse, no, so I probably wouldn't use a horse. I very much doubt you'd internally use nuclear weapons, because once a nuclear weapon is used, even if it's on your own country, that's probably when you're going to pull in a lot of more international kind of stuff. I mean, I'd hope if it gets to that stage that America would just invade the UK. I've not read the book Metro, no, but I've played 2033 and Last Light. I think chemical weapons are far more likely to be used though, like CS gas. Now, I have no interest, like I've said before, because at the moment, if you're joining the military, it's basically to go bomb a Middle Eastern country and kill people that are in no way a threat to you. I have nothing against individual soldiers, but at this point, the UK army is literally, you know, another oil warrior nation, just going in and stealing the resources. It's still colonialism, it's just we give it a different name now. Oddworld Abe's Exodus is my favourite game. CS gas is a really nasty particulate. It's called gas, but it's not really a gas. It's basically used as an anti-riot agent, but you inhale it and it completely inflames your respiratory tract and causes you to secrete mucus, and it irritates the eyes, causing you to cry. But in high doses, CS is lethal. If you have certain medical conditions, CS is lethal. CS is prone to catching on fire. If CS sets on fire, it can burn you to death or create cyanide gas. And often CS is distributed using methylene chloride to distribute it, and if methylene chloride gets over 40 degrees it boils, and when methylene chloride boils it makes phosgene gas. So basically it's one of those, it's not technically a lethal weapon but it constantly kills people kind of thing. I think it also causes skin damage as well when it touches your skin. No, I didn't hear about shooting Huddersfield, but it doesn't surprise me if people are just shooting each other constantly. This country, just like they're stabbing each other constantly. Like I said, I don't think there's going to be a big World War III. I think it's going to be lots of civil wars all across Europe. I've only played Metal Gear 1 and 2. Like, properly. I think I've played bits of 3 and whatever, but 1 and 2 are the only ones I've played properly. Yeah, CS is used to give in the mask confidence test because it's basically to prove to you your mask works, and CS is horrible stuff, but when they actually use CS against you in the training things, it's in much lower concentrations than the police use it in. Police use 5% CS, when in military use it's normally 1% CS. Alright, see ya. Thanks, Mr. Jenkins Swift. No, I don't really like soda. I don't mind cream soda, but soda always makes me feel slightly ill. I suppose it's all the sugars and other horrible artificial sweeteners they put in it. I'd rather just drink water, to be honest. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's a lot of the wars are just totally illegal, in my opinion, in the Middle East. We really should not be there in the first place. No, I mean you'll be instructed on totally what to do. I think normally they send you in with the masks on, and then you have to take the mask off, hold it above your head for a certain amount of time, breathe in, and then obviously put the mask back on. If you're washing yourself afterwards though, use cold water, don't use hot water, because hot water will make the CS react even worse. Yeah, the original Coca-Cola. Yeah, the cocaine Coca-Cola. I've not heard of sparkling ice. No? Why would it be bad? If you like something, you like it. What's wrong with that? Oh, I think the US could very well have a second civil war, seeing how deranged some of the left is getting and angry at Trump they are, where they, you know, purposely on the streets want to beat up and kill people who don't agree with their political opinions. But they'd be stupid to start a second civil war in America, considering most of the police and army would be on, and the rednecks would all be on Trump's side. So a load of anti-gun hating, you know, soy boys versus the military, police, and rednecks. I wonder who would win that. Oh, here you can still get Coke and you can get Diet Coke, but I don't particularly like either. But I'd always have the one with actual sugar in, because lots of the artificial sweeteners cause lots of problems to the body. Like where they did all the, what was it, like, with rats, when they tested them on rats, lots of the artificial sweeteners caused tumours and lots of other things. Yeah, I'm hoping in about a week, if it cools down, I'll stream games again. I wouldn't mind streaming some Fallout 4, because I'm reinstalling that currently, but that's 82 bloody gigabytes to download. There's a video on that barrel of bleach, it should be quite obvious. Yeah, so exactly, Geoff, or Geoff, or Jeff, sorry, not exactly sure how to pronounce it. I assume it would be Jeff, wouldn't it? But yeah, lots of the stuff in stuff still can make you fat and give you diabetes and whatever else, so artificial sweeteners I think are worse than sugar, but part of the problem was when they decided that fat itself was bad and they needed to take fat out of stuff and, you know, put sugars in everything, because sugar is far worse than fat in terms of what it does to the body, especially if it's, you know, like proper animal fat or whatever else. Yeah, I know Iron Brew. Not a massive fan of it, like I said, because I don't like most sodas, but it's not bad. It's just I don't like. Yeah, that's the thing as well with sugar, is it doesn't really make the body feel full, because you'd not really naturally eat sugar, because you'd have like things like fructose and fruits, but you wouldn't actually have refined, you know, like sugarcane sugar in foods normally as an animal. So the brain, again, doesn't really know how to react to it, so you can eat and eat and eat sugar, but you don't feel full, despite the fact it's obviously putting lots of useless calories into your body. I mean, I'd rather not eat a dog. It's like one of those things, as I've said, I'd probably already be dead by the point you'd have to worry about the food totally running out. Peter's probably like one of those things where they have good intentions, but most of the time they just make themselves look like idiots. Like Greenpeace are the worst for that. But I mean, if it's natural rice, then it's actually meant to be there, isn't it? This is the thing, it's not artificially added. Like, if you got some brown rice and you boiled some brown rice, any sugar in that is naturally there. And rice is mostly full of complex carbohydrates. Sugar's a simple carbohydrate. Mostly pentacemelamine for the ulcerative colitis. I've got inhalers for asthma if I need them. Codeine is a painkiller when I need it. The Bandit dance videos. I like some of the older Disney stuff, but none of the modern Disney stuff. Don't really have a favourite meme. I quite like the Bogdanovs, if you know what who the Bogdanovs are. Easily a Sherman from World War II. Sherman was the best tank of World War II, especially the later versions, which got rid of all the faults. It depends. I think American bacon's normally the really thin bacon, isn't it? I really like the thick, fatty bacon. Yeah, because all the grease and fat that comes out of it's lovely. Yeah, that's exactly the thing, Big Bosley. It's about getting stuff naturally in your diet, not having it, loads of it substituted by something else. Because obviously the body was not designed to drink sugary soda all day. T-34 was very good in being like the most mass-produced tank of the Second World War that was up to an okay standard. T-34, like saying it wasn't a brilliant tank, but the fact was they could make it in massive numbers. Logistics generally wins wars, and that was another very good thing about the Sherman. It was like a T-34 with much better quality control and better components, but you know, made on a mass scale. The other thing about the T-34 that was really good, not T-34, sorry, the Sherman that was really good, is the Sherman actually had a stabilizer on it, but very few tank crews were actually trained how to use the stabilizer, which was really stupid. So if all the crews were trained how to use the Sherman stabilizer, the Sherman would have had an even better kill-death ratio, but very few tank crews were actually trained how to use this Sherman stabilizer. Yeah, Centurion was pretty good, but that's a British, like, end of World War II, early Cold War tank, which is why it's good. Basically every British Cold War tank was pretty good, like Centurions, Chieftains and Challengers, but generally, until the Cold War, Britain was a bit crap at making tanks. Panzer IVs had very good guns and optics on them, but they didn't have much in the way of armour. But if Germany wanted to make a good tank, what they should have done is, rather than gone with the Panzer and the Tiger, would have been to make more Panzer IVs with slightly better engines and better armour. Because basically World War II was about more mass producing medium tanks and trying to make big heavy tanks. Oh, what do I think about ATGMs? They do the job of blowing stuff up. I'm pretty sure you can't legally have a flamethrower in the UK, so I can't say would I buy it, because that might incriminate myself. But if I could get pretty much any weapon whatsoever, of course I'd get it if it was affordable and I wouldn't get gulagged for it. Has the stream been on about an hour now? Yeah, it's been on about an hour, so I'll wrap it up in a minute, because my voice is already going dry and I need to get another video film later on. Which type of Bofors? Because they made a few different kinds of Bofors, like the Bofors anti-aircraft, because Bofors cannons is just like the factory, wasn't it, Bofors? Like the Swedish company that made them. They actually had a Bofors factory though in the UK, not very far from me, during World War II that was hidden, where they like made the Bofors barrels, I think it was, under contract. Yeah, so the 40mm anti-aircraft Bofors. Terminator, just because he's like incredibly strong. But I suppose Predator probably has weapons that would destroy him fairly easily, actually. Oh, it's not a double upload, but there'll be a video at 5 PM as usual. It's just that I've done the stream today. Any day there's a stream, there's still a regular video. But obviously bear in mind, because I'm so ahead of schedule with videos, when I'm filming a video today, that's not going to be up until like sometime mid next week, because I always like to work over a week ahead if I can. Just so if anything comes up and I can't film a video for a day or two, I'm, you know, not going to then be running behind. Well, one-on-one Predator, but it depends if the Xenos have loads and loads of aliens. Yeah, but I'm think he's on about a proper flamethrower, like, you know, shooting a petrol jet like 20-30 meters. Well, if you think you're going to be exposed to radiation, otherwise no, but Geigers are cool. But if you're going to get one, get a modern one. I mean, the retro ones are really cool, but you might as well get a modern one like that little SOX one I have. And I still keep getting idiots coming on my video going, oh, you retard, the SOX Geiger counter can't detect alpha radiation, despite the fact I can show in several videos that it can detect alpha radiation. I find it pretty amazing that I can get a source that's only produces alpha radiation, it doesn't produce beta or gamma. And I can get my other Geiger counter out that can't detect alpha and it can only detect beta and gamma. I can put that next to it. Oh no, it doesn't pick anything up. I put the SOX one next to it that apparently can't, you know, detect alpha radiation, and it starts ticking away. And I can do that with several sources of alpha radiation, but then you get somebody, no, you retard, that's not detecting alpha radiation. It just must be making a bit of beta anyway that your other Geiger counter can't see. You can get the SOX Geiger counters for about £100, the Russian ones, that's what I've got. Although I sent mine for free by Ziggy Jinx, so big thanks to him again for sending that in. But yeah, the SOX one is really good because it's the size of a small mobile phone. So obviously it's a lot more practical and it takes AA batteries or AAA batteries, whatever it is, than the massive old one that you put around your neck that weighs several kilos with a big wand. Nuclear weapons aren't illegal to use. It's just nobody would use them because that would be the end of the world, because mutually assured destruction. A dosimeter shows you your accumulated dose. So basically, a Geiger gives you a real-time dose. Dosimeter is... So think about it like this. If you're driving in a car and you're looking at your speedometer and you're doing 50 miles per hour, the speedometer is like your Geiger counter. It's showing you the speed you're currently doing. But if you had a trip computer that's showing you the total miles you've driven, that would be the dosimeter. So a dosimeter shows you how much radiation you've been exposed to. A Geiger counter shows you how much radiation you're currently like next to. So the SOX one I have is basically like a combined Geiger counter dosimeter. It gives you a real-time reading and accumulated dose reading. So that's why it's really handy, because it will tell you, you know, like how much radiation you've been exposed to, as well as like what you're currently experiencing. I mean, the dosimeter I've got, you can reset at any point if you want to. Let me just have a quick look for you. I'm not sure if this is the exact model I have, but there you go. I don't know if the seller's any good or not, but just to prove that it exists. Oh, this is really annoying. The link is longer than the chat, so I can't post the link. But I'll tell you what I searched for. Search this on eBay, and you're bound to get results. Yeah, I've played the old Return to Castle Wolfenstein. But yeah, if you Google that, there's lots of them turning up for just over £100 on eBay. But make sure you get one that's an actual proper Geiger counter and not one that you stab into a material to check it. I was saying, maybe some of the SOEX ones can't detect alpha radiation, but the one I can definitely can, because if I put it next to an alpha-only radiation source, like a smoke alarm, it gets a reading. I don't know how Scottish knife laws differ than UK knife laws, so I can't really comment on that, but I've spoken enough about the UK knife laws. Anyway, my throat hurts now, because I've been talking straight for over an hour. So thanks for watching, everybody. Hopefully you've enjoyed the stream. I'll just be going off now, but yeah, as I said, a big thanks to everybody that watched.